Hey there, welcome back to another week of Leading from the Middle. I'm Helen Young-McLaughlin, and if you're just tuning in, I just want to catch you up. I've decided this year to connect with 23 different leaders to learn a little bit more about what they do, what they believe companies can do to transform their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And I do this by asking one question. And this week, I'm super excited because I have Jess Goldberg. She is a leadership and communication coach. She is also a lecturer at Columbia University, and she oversees, tell me more about this, Jess, but AI robotics. I want to learn a little bit more about that because that's not an area of expertise for me. But before we dive in, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, I kind of sit at the intersection of AI and human potential. So I've taught thousands of leaders leadership skills, communication skills from companies like Bank of America to Google. And I also manage a team that is training robots to have natural and fluid and engaging conversations. So I've taken those communication skills, and while I'm training them to robots, I'm also training them to humans. But don't worry, I save the best ones for the humans.
This is exciting. This needs to be like a whole nother spotlight on you. I need to learn a little bit more about this, but thank you for that. And Jess, if you will share a little bit more about the work that you've done leading up to where you are right now, that might be connected to what we're going to be talking about today. Is there anything you want to highlight?
I began my career as a journalist, and I really spent the early parts of my career covering some of the biggest world crises. So I covered the Syrian civil war, the Ukraine crisis, the rise of Donald Trump. And what I discovered when I was writing about these stories was that the biggest problem was a lack of clear and compassionate communication. And that's really what was challenging with a lot of these problems, and what was causing the rub is that people were not able to communicate well their issues and what was actually going on for them inside, and how they could communicate their own emotions. And
Oh,
so,
and that totally ties in. And I don't even know what your answer is going to be to the question, but that totally ties in to the work that I know that you're doing currently. And Jess and I have, we met through a mutual friend who is amazing. And let me just say that we have the same passion around supporting mid-level managers. And Jess, I'm going to ask you the question so that we can see how this experience that you have and the expertise that you have really ties in to the work that we're both doing right now. So the question I'm asking everybody is, what is one thing, it's hard to parrot, but one thing that companies need to pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their mid-level managers?
yes, I'm excited to dive into this with you. So our world is moving really fast, and technology is disrupting a ton of organizations. And I believe that the true differentiator between organizations in the future won't just be the new technologies that they adopt, but the caliber of their leadership. So we
Mm.
know that the top reasons why people leave a company is because of their manager. And so if companies want to succeed and retain great talent, they really need to develop managers who have a high level of emotional intelligence. So what do I mean by that? I mean,
Right.
we need managers who are able to manage not just their own emotions, but they are able to recognize and influence the emotions of their team. And this really improves team dynamics. It increases productivity through clear communication. And it also leads to higher employee engagement and retention. And this kind of ties back to my years as a journalist, figuring out that clear communication, being able to regulate and express our own emotions is really clear and key to being able to solve big problems. And so when managers are kind of equipped with high emotional intelligence, they're able to be the architects of their workplace culture, which can
But
create,
Jess,
yeah,
hold on, because I'm stressed out. I got a bunch of emails. I'm getting slacked. My text messages are going off. I've got sick kids at home, right? I am fired up in my day and I've got a lot of deadlines. How can I possibly tap into that emotional intelligence on a regular basis so that, communication is just seamless? It just sounds too perfect to be able to do.
totally. It does sound really hard. And so there's two sides to it. There's a side of emotional intelligence that's regulating our own emotions. So there's some really key simple tips that we can do to do that. What we want to do is bring ourselves to presence. And so there are a couple different ways that people can do it to figuring out which works best for you. So one is to have the breath. So moving your attention to your breath, taking, you have a big stressful meeting with your boss that you're worried about or you're anxious about, taking just that deep breath in and then breathing out and being able to focus on that can downregulate the nervous system. I also like to use the sensation of just rubbing your two fingers together and just trying to bring your attention to those two fingers rubbing together. Or you can, pick something in your visual field. What are you seeing? And just kind of notice the thing. Whatever you're doing is you're just trying to bring your attention away from the spiraling to the present moment so you can regulate yourself. That's
the power of the pause is incredibly important. It is something we all have the ability to do. It does sometimes seem too simple, but it is a practice and it's a habit that we can start to choose to implement in order for us not to get what I call emotionally hijacked. Agreed?
Absolutely. 100% is really important for us because as managers, there's a thing called mirror neurons. And so if we're anxious, if we're stressed, our employees are going to feel that too.
Yes, that energy that I have a program called the Leverage Academy, and it's where I bring about 10 managers together for 6 months. We have this collaborative space where we're collectively building not only those relationships, but building the skills and the confidence necessary in order to lead at their current level or future promotion or level. And one of the things that we talk about is energy management. And also that we're pairing it with the pause, the power of the pause. And it's just not something that is typically talked about in the workplace. It's figure it out as you go, right? And that doesn't always work and isn't sustainable.
Totally. We have such focus sometimes on the it dimension. What are we doing? What's the work? What are the skills we need to do the daily job? But we so often don't focus on the I dimension or the we dimension, the places of like ourselves and our employees.
So when you talk about emotional intelligence, and this is the one thing that kind of popped up that you want companies or managers listening in that might want to go back and share this tip with their leader, what is it? Is there a step 1, 2, and 3 that companies can think about? I think what's helpful, the feedback I've been given by some of the listeners is when they get a tip that they can then implement themselves. It could be a manager, or when a senior leader is hearing this and they're starting to think about, oh, how are we developing our employees? Is there a step 1, 2, and 3 they can consider with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the self-regulation and the tips that I just gave there, those are really important and key. So that's on the, I dimension, focusing on ourselves and self-regulation. But then on the interpersonal relationships, I'd really say it's about developing curiosity. And that's really about the skill of asking better questions. And the one tip I would give is just replace your questions when you're asking your employees something rather than using why, use what. And you'll find huge power in that. So instead of why didn't you get this project done, what delayed this project? That increases an ability and a connection with your employees so that they don't have as much defensiveness. So just kind of increasing your level of curiosity as a leader, or as leaders focusing on what their managers might be needing. It's really about encouraging a little bit of space to have more curiosity, because if you ask the right questions, you can solve the right problems. If you have a great solution to the wrong problem, it's not the right solution. So
right.
The questions to be able to diagnose it better.
And I find that the power of curiosity, that is something that if they could exercise this on a regular basis, it can become a really valuable tool inside a company. So one of the things that we do in my program, again, is really, practicing this what over why. And people don't realize we dive right into the why. Well, why is that happening? Because we're natural solvers. And so being able to take a step back and say, try that again as a what question. And I think I love this tip because this is something, questions, it does take practice. Communication takes practice. Like, let's be real. It is an assumed
Absolutely.
skill. And it's something that I think we need to exercise every single day to strengthen it, and so I love this. If a senior leader can learn to flip the script, so to speak, and ask a powerful question, they're also teaching that manager to do the same. And if we connect it to why does it even matter, what would you say?
Yeah, it's incredibly important to be able to do this, to be able to bring that attention back to there. If we can, think about the bigger mission, what are the goals that we're trying to achieve, and the manager can be able to tie those together, it's going to make it much easier for the employee to feel like they have motivation to helping us
Yeah.
solve these problems.
This is so great. I could keep talking to you. We might have a 2024 recap, so I'll invite you back. If you were to bottom line what we talked about today and you wanted the listeners to just hear it in a sentence or two, what would you say companies need to pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their managers?
They need to pay more attention to how their managers are feeling and how their managers develop the relationship that they have with their employees.
Love that. Jess, if people want to reach out to you, learn a little bit more, and I know they will, about the work you do and want to connect with you, where can they find you?
And they can easily find me on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, there's access to, if they want to book a free call with me, they're happy to do that there. But yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a part of this project. I'm looking forward to featuring this interview, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. And for those listening in, please stay tuned next week for another leader who's going to be joining us and giving some information and tips that you will be able to implement right away. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again and have a great day.